Wanted to give a 500-mile review, and here's some scenes really quick from where we started. And all right, so back to the scooter review. This is a 2014 Zuma, Yamaha Zuma 125, and this is what it looks like right here. This is the Zuma. Give you kind of a quick view of the scooter. All right, and let's start talking about what has been modified on this scooter. And I think we're going to start with the intake coming right down here. It has a modified intake, so the airbox is gone. You'll see a breather for the crankcase over there, and then a matching breather here. And so that's number one. Number two are these shocks, and then this fender has been cut off. I think it normally comes down to here. This one had a short fender on it. I replaced it with the standard one so you don't get mud on yourself. All right. Another modification that's been done is on this kickstand. And so there is a switch to turn the motor off when you put the kickstand down, and that has been removed. All right, coming up, the handlebars and handlebar risers. Those have been replaced, a little bit wider handlebars. You also see on here I put a ram mount. That is for my phone mount. And then the mirrors, I believe these are aftermarket mirrors, though I didn't put them on, so I don't know. I know these handguards are an add-on as well. So we got that. And then I had just added this 12-volt USB port here. So that is a 4.8 amp USB port. Prior to that, the person had a voltage meter mounted right here, but it would hit my knee because it stuck out about that far, and I didn't really feel like I needed it. What I really felt like I needed here was something to charge my phone with so I could keep my directions. Coming around the front, the headlights have been altered so that both headlights come on low beam and on high beam, rather than just a low beam and a high beam. You can look for the review that I've done on that and how to do this mod, as well as I have replaced both lights with LED much brighter headlights. Of course, the grips have been replaced, and that's about it. Actually, no, there is one more large modification, and that is this Akaprovic exhaust that has been replaced. Replaces the standard exhaust on this, and that's an expensive upgrade. And one of the things I've mentioned before, and that is the O2 sensor, that if you get an aftermarket exhaust on one of these, you want to make sure it has an O2 sensor like that, so that the bike can still manage and monitor how much oxygen is going through the pipe, so it'll either increase or decrease the amount of fuel needed for the combustion. And that's pretty important. All right, that's the mods. And now, what are my impressions on this 125 over 500 miles? And I've taken it to Santa Cruz. I did a little video on that. That was an awesome, right into the sun. So the Santa Cruz trip was a total blast. Oh my God, what a joy. And then now there's been all these back roads and going up through canyons and taking super windy roads up and through the back country, and those views are just amazing. And on the scooter is just so much fun. You're not going as fast as you are on a bike, so you stop more, you find little turnouts. It sort of makes the whole experience bigger. There's that much more enjoyment, especially like the Santa Cruz trip, where everywhere I would go there would be place to stop because I'm not on the highway. So you'd find little towns, things that you'd never seen before. It's hard to explain just how awesome it is to travel on a scooter. It's just so much fun. As far as the Zuma 125, there are some drawbacks, and it's really not power. Power is fine. I mean, this thing will do 60 miles an hour, but it's not going to do it uphill. But it will go, it's pretty fast. The shocks, those are terrible. These upgraded for shocks, which I don't know if I mentioned date, so the shocks are upgraded. These shocks are horrible. These are like a $90 shock for two, and they're all over the internet. They are absolutely terrible. They're so stiff. You'd almost really rather have the pogoing of the stock shocks. I'd probably put the stock shocks back on just to have something a little softer. I think I'd almost rather them bottom out than have it so stiff. I think these could be on a much heavier motorcycle. The front shocks, they're pretty soft. Stock shocks, these have had the oil replaced, but I asked the previous owner and he said that he replaced them with the standard oil. You could go up to like a 15 weight oil, fork oil in the front, and I think that would help. I think there's valving enough to adjust that. I may try that. Probably needs a little bit heavier of a spring, but you know, people tend to go too stiff. So really the shocks are downfall. The stock bars, you know, I'm not a huge fan of the stock bars. They kind of pull back a little bit too much. They make you, if you're a really small rider, it'd be fine, but these help a little bit. They're a lot wider. You have a lot more control, and it does help you sit a little bit farther forward. And I'll mention about the seat. This is somewhat of a flat seat here, but it does have a tiny bit of a rise here. You can't even really see it, but that little tiny bit of a rise, if it were back about here, it would be perfect, but it's right here. So it tends to hit me right in the tailbone. I mean, you barely can even see it there, but I think it's a little harder foam back here, a little softer here. And so, and it's just a little flatter right here. And I wish it would just back a little bit further because it would be a comfortable seat. And you almost have to sit either too far back or too far forward for a 6-foot guy. If you're a little shorter, I think it would be, or the legs are a little bit shorter, arms are a little bit shorter, something like that. You would sit just a tad bit farther forward. That'd be nice. But the seat's not uncomfortable, that's for sure. I mean, spent 7 hours on this and it was just fine. Over 500 miles, you're gonna ask what kind of fuel economy did I get, and I'm really not sure, but somewhere between 90 and about 70. It depends what I was doing. Some of the canyon riding I was doing was full out, going uphill. I was getting like 70 miles per gallon, which really isn't all that great. The 90 miles per gallon, you know, across more of the valleys where I didn't have to be, you know, wasn't going full out. You get about 90 miles per gallon, something like that. If you're a little lighter, you might get a little bit better gas mileage, but you know, that's okay. I think the Hondas get 100. They say like all the way up to 130. That'd be pretty awesome. I'm really happy with the scooter. 500 miles, no complaints. Tires are just fine. Storage, should open up the storage here just to show you. Storage is pretty good. I took the cup holder out of here. I don't know if you can see it, there's no cup holder, but that's pretty good. You know, it seems like I think they could make it bigger if they put the fuel tank up here like they did on the newest one. I think it's up here, and then you get a bigger storage tank. But right here is the fuel tank, so it takes up some of the storage space. That's still enough to pack for the day. Probably not enough to go like on a 5-day adventure or something, but you could put a saddlebag on the back or a backpack like I have on now. Anyways, that's it for 500 mile review. Let's get to putting another 500 miles on this, and we'll do a 1,000-mile review and see how that is. Oh, and if you guys look off into the center of that screen, see that windy line? That's a road. Let's go ride that.